Let's talk about this race first because Kipchoge, he got mission accomplished in one way. He got back to the winning circle. He ran 2:04. It's a decent marathon. But when I was thinking he was going to run 2:04, I assumed it would be a negative split. And instead, this was a positive split. He was, essentially a minute slower the second half of this race. So I'm still putting him as the favorite for the Olympic marathon, but are you guys worried about Eliud Kipchoge in any way? I mean, I guess we can't be too worried, but this, I don't know. I give this like a B performance for him.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. Like, I don't view Kipchoge as the unstoppable force that he was maybe a year ago. And maybe that's wrong, but I do think I think he's beatable. But I do think he deserves to be the favorite. I would certainly pick him to win. But maybe this at the Olympics, you're no longer in a position where you're saying, like, normally if you had Kipchoge versus the field over the last few years, you'd probably go Kipchoge. And now if you get Kipchoge against the field, you're probably taking the field in Tokyo. But I'm not super worried. Like, yes, he slowed down. So he went 61:43, 62:47 for his splits. Robert did a very good job, actually, in the week that was this week. He'll probably brag about this in a minute, but he deserves to. Robert, you compiled all his splits from every marathon he's ever run, and you actually tell the audience what you tried to do, and then I had to sort of step in and prevent you from doing.
Well, I spent a lot of time on it. I was quite proud of it. So when I presented the table, I found the little copyright symbol and put it in the table. And John called me up, like, again, all irate. And he's like, what are you doing here? Are you trying to copyright a table? I was like, yes, I don't want any damn announcer using this table without at least citing me. So I think if I put this little C here.
And you think putting a C there will make them cite your table? That'll change their opinion.
So I took the C off, but we know that other journalists, you can't copyright facts. But look, seriously, people, when you read something on Let's Run, just say you got it from Let's Run. That's all we're asking. A little love. Thank you.
Robert, I think you can copyright compilation of facts if they're presented in a unique way. Copyright lawyers, please contact us. Robert will probably drop about $3,000 copywriting his table with all the money he's blowing on the equipment. This is another first. Hope Robert sounds really well today. He came on the podcast. There was no video issues, no audio issues behind the scenes. If we make it through today smoothly, then John will be happy all week and hopefully happy next week, and we'll really hit a new standard.
Yeah, how does this $600 mic sound? I hope
You sound great, Robert. You sound great. But anyway, back to this race. So I don't know. I'm not what I wanted to see from this race was I wanted to see Kipchoge win. I think 2:04 is fine. That's what I predicted from him. He put 2 minutes on these guys over the last 10K. And okay, he wasn't speeding up like he does in some of his best marathons, but he didn't look like he was straining to me. He looked in control the whole way. It was basically like, all right, he went through he got his preparation in, he got the win, he's sort of back to normal. I think mentally, as much as anything, like Kipchoge always talks about the mental side of the sport, I just think mentally this was a nice rebound for him to get back. He won. This was not a tough field, okay? There was 2 other guys who had run 2:06 in it, but it's not like he was beating any sort of superstars in this race. But the fact that he won and that he made it look pretty easy, I think that's a very good sign. That's what I wanted to see from Kipchoge.
Well, John, first of all, as an employee, I heard I'm supposed to work in morale. So thank you for waking up at 2:30 in the morning or staying up and recapping the meet. I was very impressed by that. I didn't expect that. But I don't know if you're feeling the heat or not, because Employee 1.1 has written the most popular article of the year by far. Maybe you were feeling a little bit insecure in your job security. I mean, Steve hardly ever writes articles, and he writes one article, just crushed it.
Which, the Usain Bolt one?
Yes, it was his April Fool's article about Usain Bolt coming back, and I guess Google thought it was real, but, hey, whatever got you motivated to watch the race. But when I'm reading your recap, I'm like, sounds like fake news. John's like, and he put this gap on the field. Well, no, the field, everyone was slowing down. They were just slowing down more. So I'm a little bit concerned. I think it's a solid race. I mean, I don't know what I would have expected when they went out that hard, but the fact that he's slowing down, I just feel like if it was easy for him, he wouldn't have been slowing down. So the reality, as the table points out, I think only 5 times has he run slower than 62:30 in the second half of a marathon. And he's run the slowest second half marathon and his 4th slowest in history in his last back-to-back races. So I think most likely peak Kipchoge is gone. But in some ways, this reminds me of the oil thing. Like people have been saying we're going to run out of oil for 20, 30 years. And yet we're actually producing as much, if not more oil than we ever have in history. So Kipchoge, if Kipchoge is gone, it doesn't mean there's still not a lot in the tank, and he's a very formidable person. So happy to see him win. Happy to see the event go off. But if I'm Galen Rupp, I'm feeling a little bit better about things.
Yeah, I mean, the one question here is like Kipchoge, and a lot, especially like his London victories, we'll see him with company through 22 or 23 miles, and then he'll drop like a 4:30 or a couple 4:30s, and then it'll be game over. And he didn't need to do that this time because there wasn't anyone to drop by mile 22 or mile 23. And that's going to be the question in Sapporo this summer is, when it gets down to nut crunching time, end of the race, is he still going to be able to drop that 4:30 or, that back-to-back 4:35s or something to drop the pack and thin them out? And that's, he's shown before he can do it, but you got to prove yourself every time out in the marathon.
I just watched my first clip of the actual marathon. Showed him finishing. Full race is up on YouTube. We'll put a link in the show notes. Him at the end, it looked like classic Kipchoge. Looked very relaxed. He's just so damn smooth when he runs the marathon. And some of my questions for Tokyo, or I guess it's not Tokyo, it's Sapporo, are, because that's where the Olympic marathon will be held. They moved it to Sapporo because it's not quite as hot. I think that's the reasoning.
Yeah.
But it's still very hot. But it'll be much harder than any marathon that Kipchoge has run. I assume even compared to Rio. He doesn't have a lot of warm weather marathon experience, and the course isn't perfectly flat. And that's kind of crazy the more I think about it. Eliud Kipchoge, the world's greatest marathon, has he ever not run a pancake flat course? I guess the Rio Olympic course wasn't pancake flat, but what was the elevation gain in that one? But it's sort of amazing in that, that's kind of in some ways what the marathons become. But on a non-flat, not perfect weather course, can he still win? I guess he did it in Rio, but Sapporo is going to be another level of challenge.
Well, that's why I've always said if you're looking for holes in the resume, he's clearly the greatest marathoner in history. What has he won? 14 of 16 races, if you count the sub-2 exhibitions. That's incredible. That's ridiculous. But I want to see a mastery of all the surfaces. I want to see the French Open. I want to see the Wimbledon on grass. I don't want to just see pancake flat after pancake flat. Yes, he's won London. Yes, he's won Chicago. Yes, he's won Berlin. But I've never seen him win in New York or Boston. So hopefully we can get a New York this year. NYRR, are you listening? The guy's going to need to make some money. So sign him up.
I think Kipchoge has plenty of money, Robert. But this is a catch-22 because Kipchoge, you're here saying like, oh, he's never actually done it on the Bostons or the New Yorks, the championship-style courses. The problem is, if he started running those races, then people would be like, why is he dodging the best athletes in London? Why isn't he going for the world record in Berlin? We'd be poking those holes in his resume. So as a marathoner, it's kind of like you have to pick a couple things to go for. It's very hard to do absolutely everything in the sport. Now, Kipchoge, maybe if he wins this Olympics, or he's already got the world record, maybe if he runs Boston and New York the next couple of years and starts winning those, then he actually will have done everything. But you only really get to run 2, maybe 3 a year, and Kipchoge is pretty married to the 2 marathons per year thing. So I find it hard to criticize him for not running Boston or New York or any of those races when it's not like he's dodging them by going to London or trying to chase the world record in Berlin.
No, the guy shows up at London every year, which is the world's best marathon, and then he wanted the world record for a long time, and that was hard to get because of conditions, and then he needed the sub-2, now there's a couple sub-2 attempts, so whatever. His career is insane. 16 marathons, and the worst one, I think, is a 2:06. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Really think about it. So,
one last thing on this race, Robert. Augustin Choge, another DNF. I'm kind of bummed. I was excited to see him run this. He's a guy, he's run 1:44 for 800 on the track. He's run 59:26 in the half marathon. He won that epic 2006 Commonwealth Games against Craig Mottram in Melbourne. And I was hoping he could run this marathon, get under 210, and really, that would pretty much be the greatest range ever. I don't think anyone's ever run 144 and sub 210 in the marathon. And unfortunately, he tried this in Chicago a few years ago. He DNF'd. He also DNF'd in this race. So maybe the marathon is a bridge too far for the great Augustine Kipchoge.
I got a correction. The Rio course was pretty much pancake flat. So Kipchoge has never run a marathon that isn't pancake flat. But still the favorite for Sapporo. And people were having the Olympics, right? If we just say positive things, we're going to have an Olympics for sure, right? Money's what matters. Oh, shit, John. Now, with the cancellation of the Super League, which I think all sports fans think is a great thing, but now if money isn't the number one priority, could they cancel the Olympics in the name of safety? I hope not. Employee 1.1, didn't he say like he would bet his entire life savings there's an Olympics this year? I think he said that on the Monday call.
Well, that's not saying much, though. I mean, he doesn't. Wife's a school teacher, and he's paid by the hour by Let'sRun.com. So we love you, Steve. Anyways, let's move to the Australian Championships.